All right, let's also just see. Sounds coming through okay?
Yep.
Great. You're doing it. I'll do Omer. You can do the birthday blessing. I'll do the Omer. Okay.
But are we doing the? I think we should do the birthday before the Q&A.
Good idea. And Harvey had a big birthday in '95.
85.
Harvey Atkins had 95. Harvey Grassfield had 85.
Are you sure?
Just recently, yeah.
Wonderful.
Oh, okay. Yep. Do you want Susie to do a reading on the white page too?
Sure.
Okay, just point it out.
Well, did you tell her?
No, I didn't. I'll tell her.
Where's Iggy?
Page 2 every.
Susie, there's also a reading on page 3 in English that you can do before you light. Okay. Okay. It's either as these. Starting shallow. Remember. They're so long. Oh, very good. I've got. Oh, we still have 3 minutes. Shabbat shalom.
We're actually on time.
I'll
How
have
about that,
you'll
Tim?
come sit here. I've got a beer.
We can do what?
You want me to do the
It's
English
5 weeks
translation or just the reading?
No, you can
And
do
it's a house full of people too. Yes.
We'll bless, and that's it.
That's it.
So it's 5 weeks and 6 days.
Yes.
Well, Iggy needs to come over here.
Oh, the Bernsteins are on. Hello, Bernsteins.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Hi, Tim.
Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom.
shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Hi, Hazel.
Oh, look
I have a
at
question. When the rabbis are on, their audio is very low. When someone else is speaking, it's high. So
Yeah, I think that they
modulate.
have it cranked up as much as they can.
What?
We do have it up as much as
Yeah,
we
it's
I
their
can maybe-
bandwidth.
What's that?
It's their bandwidth.
No, I don't think so. I think it's the equipment. It's the
Yeah, I
combination.
mean, I can turn it up a little bit more. Check one. Check.
Sure, if you want.
Check one. Okay, check.
Ooh,
That's loud.
that's
Yeah, I know.
loud.
I know. I'm getting it to the green.
Okay.
So hopefully that will do it. We will project. We also don't, I mean, I can move the microphone closer, but then it's right in the middle of the screen.
That's all right.
it's sad.
All right, I'll move the microphone closer. It's going to look like we're on Radio Row or something.
So you kind of are. I'm going to mute myself.
Is that okay, or is it distracting to have the microphone, Tim?
I don't really notice it.
Yeah, I can barely see it.
Yeah.
In fact, I have to turn down
You have
my
to turn down
volume.
now?
I have to, well, don't you, I'm just doing it here.
Well, it's a moving target. One
So I
day-
can control the volume that I want to hear at.
All right. Should we, I've got 6:30.
Okay, we need to work out that so Sally can sing for us.
And Selena. Good. Nice to.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Yeah. Shabbat Shalom. We're going to continue on page 24 with bringing in the Shabbat messengers of peace with Shalom Aleichem. We'll take a moment to greet one another after this song, but just one more song to help us transition into Shabbat. We were feeling like a little bit more of a mellow Shalom Aleichem tonight. So some of you will recognize this melody that we brought with us from Tulsa. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seichem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shabbat Shalom. I hope that song gave you a little pause, a little time just to bring in Shabbat in your home. On this first Shabbat in May, our second week of trying to be back outdoors, New England spring is not quite here, although it was earlier today, but hopefully everyone is warm at home. We will keep trying. It is still wonderful to bring in Shabbat together. Maybe we can unspotlight us for just a moment so that those who are on Zoom can give each other a Shabbat wave. Again, we'll have some time after the service to greet one another. And if you're joining us through live stream, we're so glad that you are with us. For those who are on Zoom, just a little advanced organizer for our service. Hopefully you saw the email. We're going to have some time to ask the rabbi later in our service. That's going to be Rabbi Karen Citron, Rabbi Micah Citron, and Rabbi Paul Citron, Micah's dad, who is here with us visiting from Albuquerque. And so you can think about your questions. You can enter a question at any point in the service in the chat. That would probably be the best way to do it. And when we get to that, some people emailed as well. So we're actually going to do the email questions first because you read your email and sent it. But if you're on Zoom, you can send a question through the chat. Again, anything you're wondering about Judaism, again, not stump the rabbi, but ask the rabbi. We'll look forward to engaging you. And please join with us in prayer and song this evening. You can sing out as loud as you want at home. And hopefully you have your electronic siddur or a siddur in your hand to follow along. We're going to turn to page 2 for our Shabbat candles, and we're not going to be doing too much spotlighting tonight because we have some honored guests in our home, and we are honored to invite Susie Citron to bless our Shabbat candles.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of all the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle the lights.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehalit ner shel Shabbat. Thank you, Susie. And we're going to continue on page 13. Page 13. We don't always take the time to sing together Kabbalat Shabbat, the Psalms of Shabbat, so we wanted to add a psalm this evening. Psalm 96, Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash, sing unto God a new song. And indeed, this is a new song for us because this is the first time we're ever singing this melody. We heard it, we loved it. It's written by Cantor Jordan Franzel, and we want to teach it to you. So you'll let us know what you think about it after. We're not going to do all the verses tonight.
After you hear it the second time. Because you have to, so not this service, but the next time you do it, then you can let us know. It's got to like wash over you a little bit.
All right, but we hope you'll join with us. Again, the Hebrews on page 13, especially on this first Shabbat in May, a new song for Shabbat. Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash, Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz, Shiru Ladonai Baruch Shemo, Basru Miyom Leyom Yeshuato. Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash, Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz, Shiru Ladonai Baruch Shemo, Basru Miyom Leyom Yeshuato. Sapru v'goyim kivado, v'chol ha'amim nivlotav, ki gadol Adonai u'mehula me'od, nora hu al kol Elohim. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai baruch hu shemo, basru miyom leyom Yeshuato. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai baruch hu shemo, basru miyom leyom Yeshuato. Ki kol Elohei ha'amim elilim, Adonai shamayim asa. Hod v'hadar lefanav, Oz v'tiferet b'mikdasho. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai baruch hu shemo, basru miyom leyom Yeshuato. 20. We'll join in Lecha Dodi, verses 1, 2, 5, and 9 as we welcome the Shabbat bride. You're welcome to rise in that last verse to greet Shabbat.
Shamor v'zachor v'diborecha tishmi'anu el ha'meichad Adonai echad u'eshemo echad Hashem tiferet v'nitila lecha Dodi b'krat Allah v'nei Shabbat v'nei Shabbat לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה מיני מקור המלאכה מראש מקדם מסוף הסוף מעשה ומחשבה תפילה דודי לקראת מעלה בני שבת בני שבת נקבלה התעוררי התעוררי גיבה אורי קומי אורי 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 שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה לך דודי לקראת מעלה בני שבת בני שבת לקבלה אורי ושלום את ארץ באה גם בשמחה ובצורה טוב אמוני עם סגולה בו יפעלה
On the bottom of page 27, words that lead us into our call to worship. Entrances to holiness are everywhere. The possibility of ascent is all the time. Even at unlikely times and through unlikely places, there is no place on earth without God's presence.
La
invite you to join with me in our blessing for creation on the top of page 31. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'ma'ariv Aravi. Page 32, Ahavat Olam, God's love for us.
Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Ahavta. Torah, mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otan limadeta. Aken Adonai Eloheinu, v'shofeinu u'vekuleinu, nasiach b'chukecha, v'nisach b'divrei Toratecha, u'b'mitzvotecha, le'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu ve'orach yameinu, ve'orach yameinu. U'bahem negei yomam v'layla, yomam v'layla. Ve'avatcha tasir mimenu le'olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Continue on page 36, chanting Ve'ahavta, these words that link us together from one generation to the next. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha u'vlechtecha v'derech u'shokbecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam le'od al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם. I am Adonai your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. Emet. We link those words with our Song of the Sea. Page 40. One
one of our great American Jewish singer-songwriters in the last 25 years is Dan Nichols, and he offers this setting for Mi Chamocha and also our melody for Hashkivenu, which we'll pray next. Mi Chamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi Chamocha nedar ba'kodesh, Mi Chamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi Chamocha nedar ba'kodesh. Nora tehilot, Osef eleh, Nora tehilot, Osef eleh, Adonai yimloch le'olam ba'ed. Malchutecha uvanecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, Ze'elianu ve'amru, Ze'elianu ve'amru, Adonai yimloch le'olam ba'ed. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi chamocha nedar ba'kodesh, Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi chamocha nedar ba'kodesh. V'ne'emar kifad Adonai et Yaakov, ugalo miyad chazak mimenu. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. You can find the Hebrew for Hashkivenu on page 42 or some English words on your screen as we pray together that God's shelter of peace will be spread over all of us. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chayim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chayim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chayim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu You're welcome to join with me on page 44. Those who keep Shabbat by calling it a delight will rejoice in your realm. The people that hallow Shabbat will delight in your goodness. For being pleased with the seventh day, you hallowed it as the most precious of days.
drawing our attention to the work of creation. Page 46, we rise in body or in spirit and join together. Adonai, sifatai tiftach, ufia gitelilatecha. Adonai,
Open up my lips,
that my mouth may declare your praise.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chastei Avot v'Imahot, U'Mevei Gila Livnei Bneihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshiach u'Magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol atah rav lehoshia, Morid hatal. Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim. Somech noflim verofech olim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato lishenei afar, michamocha ba'al gevurot, umidom melach, melech mimit umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kdoshim b'chol yom yalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. Take a few moments for our own silent prayer. We are going to come back together on page 62 with our prayer for shalom, for peace and wholeness.
shalom imroma. Uyase shalom aleinu ve'akol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Yase shalom, yase shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yase shalom, yase shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. We turn now to page 253 for Misha Berach, our prayer for healing. And we know many reasons people join in for prayer. Misha Berach especially offers those looking for a little bit of uplift, a little bit of strength, this time to think about our physical health, mental health, emotional, spiritual health. We especially pray for members of our community and members of our families. You're welcome to enter any other names into the chat so that we might think of them. Colin Monroe, Jerry Seligman, Mary Lou Hole, Janet Watson, Paul Robillard, Elizabeth Hill, Kelso Silva, Enrico Mascaro, Deborah Booker, Dick Feibelman, Amy Syke, Robert Bloom, Annalee Stone, Bernard Tarr, Benjamin Horowitz, Bradley Dichter, Mateo Goldman, Judy Cook, Fruma Batarab, Jacob Besonia, Dan Ruggiero, Toby Weiner, Svetlana Rabinovich, Dahlia Harrell, Herb Kupferschmidt, Essia Rashovska, Amy Fasper Kurtz, Eileen Arnone, and Charles Atkins. Invite you to name any other loved ones. Join together in our prayer for healing. Those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, going to unspotlight us, as is our custom on the first Shabbat of the month. We are delighted to offer a May birthday blessing. So if you are on Zoom with us, maybe you can give a wave if you are celebrating a birthday this month. I see Sally Weiner, I think.
Harvey.
Connie Rizzoli.
Harvey Atkins.
Harvey Atkins. Wonderful. And we know that there's been some big special birthdays this month. Harvey Grassfield as well. And anyone who is on with us through live stream, we're sending you birthday wishes.
Just give me half a blessing, because it's my half birthday
right.
this month. I'll
Happy
take that.
half birthday.
Thanks,
Well, to
Rabbi.
all of you celebrating in May, this month of hopefully true springtime in New England, the month of counting the Omer. So for all of you celebrating in May, hopefully you make each day count in your own lives and each year count as you continue counting up in your years. I offer you these words of blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shenatan bechokmato levasar vadam. We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe. You give of your wisdom to all creation. Author of life, our time is in your hand. We thank you for the blessing of life and for everything that enriches our lives. We turn to you with special gratitude, celebrating with all of these members of our community. May you all be blessed with health and happiness. And we are honored to celebrate the gifts that you bring to our sacred community. And we pray that each day brings you an abundance of gift and blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehachianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. We bless you, God, for bringing us to this moment and keeping us alive. Yom Huledet Sameach, a very happy birthday to all of our May birthday celebrations.
Amen. So we're going to turn now to something that we've done periodically over the last 4+ years, which is an opportunity to do some questions and some responses about Judaism, and it's a nice little change of pace, and we look forward to being able to do it again when we're in person and can have a little bit more give and take than what Zoom sometimes offers. But with my folks coming out to visit and the senior Rabbi Citron being here, we thought this was a nice opportunity to have 3 different perspectives. And so I want to invite my dad, Rabbi Paul Citron, up, and just by way of introduction, say a few things. First of all, that that he has served as rabbi in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and Palm Desert, San Diego, even Las Cruces, New Mexico, which is great to have a rabbi in a town that means the crosses. That's important. But for our purposes, most importantly, he cut his teeth as a rabbi right here at Temple Israel in Boston. He was Dan Weller's rabbi, so if you want any stories about Dan Weller from confirmation, you can go to Rabbi Paul, and he'll.
Dan was stellar.
Dan was,
And he still is.
and he still is. For me, one of the things that excited my imagination about Judaism were my questions that I could bring to my dad, whether it was after a sermon he gave on Friday night or something that just came up in my mind. I knew I could go to my dad. So to be able to now join you, Dad, in being able to discuss questions is a great honor. And so we're going to turn to our questions, and we did get a few that were emailed in, so we will start with those. And I know that we had one come in from Will Krasnow, so we'll
Can I get
look at
one
that.
word in first?
Please, Dad.
Which is, unlike the old days, if you ask the wrong questions, I will not send you to your room. But no, I want to say to all of you that we're with you every week electronically. We love it. It's a great honor, and I look forward to sharing this tonight. And thank you, Karen and Micah, for letting us.
We're glad you're here, and as Paul said earlier, now he can see the actual setup in our home. So here we are in our living room, and just a word of welcome. We see a few new faces on tonight, so we're so glad you're with us. Okay, this is a 2-part question that was emailed in at 6:29 in the morning when Mark Beal couldn't sleep anymore. So thank you, Mark Beal, for this 2-part question that he said he had for me, Rabbi Micah, and Rabbi Paul. I'll read both of them, and then we'll kind of break it up. It starts with a commentary. There seems to be Mark's comment. There seems to be so many cross currents and controversies, upsets and confusions within the Jewish people. Part A, do you feel that conservative and orthodox positions are absolutely wrong and should be relinquished and not observed? And part B, how did you decide Reform Judaism was right for you. So Mark notes that within Judaism, a lot of different opinions, often controversy and conflict, as Mark noted. So I'll just start, and we're going to try to keep it brief just so we can get to other questions as well. So part A, no, Mark, I do not believe that other positions in Judaism are absolutely wrong. There's a wonderful midrash about when the Torah was given at Mount Sinai, that people heard the language of Torah in 70 different languages. And I really view Judaism as one Torah, one God, lots of ways that we hear that tradition and interpret that tradition. And, from my perspective, it's important as Jews that we validate those diverse opinions. Of course, that's coming from a Reform perspective, and it is hard as a Reform Jew to sometimes feel that other Jews are perhaps looking down at us or not respecting us as much. Do you guys want to split this up and each respond to A, or just keep going?
Sure. Why don't we each respond to A,
okay.
And then we'll come back to why
we'll come back to part B.
Well, thank you, Karen. Rabbi David Hartman of the Shalom Institute in Jerusalem wrote once that before one can accept the God of Israel, one has to feel oneself as part of the people of Israel. So the idea that our various Jewish subgroups, our sects, if you will, are always at each other's throats, first of all, is not new in Jewish history. There have always been different points of view in every century and in every locale in which we've lived. But the one thing that I believe has kept us together is the sense of peoplehood, even though we may not agree on theological ideas and on differences between us. So it is the sense of family. What has bothered me from time to time is when certain Orthodox groups refuse to participate in the celebrations and observances of the Jewish community in a given location. I think that defeats the security of the Jewish people. But I would agree with Rabbi Karen that the diversity amongst our people enriches us.
It's interesting today, Mark sort of talked about conservative and Orthodox Judaism, and oftentimes when we think about the extremes of Judaism and their differences, we think about, well, there was Orthodox Judaism, and then people changed a little and there was conservative Judaism, and then there was Reform Judaism. But historically, that's not accurate. There were Judaisms, and then there were people who said, we need to reform Judaism. We need to make some changes, and they thought they were making those changes for Judaism in general, and that Jews would come along with their thoughts, such as men and women sitting together, bringing an instrument into services, offering a sermon in the vernacular language. Well, that's how Reform Judaism got started. So in a sense, Reform Judaism occurs first, and in response to that, you have those who want to maintain other traditions that came before Orthodox, and those who did want to change, but maybe not as quickly or in the same way as Reform Jews, conservative. And I think when we look at the different streams now, we actually see Reform and conservative Judaism much closer in terms of their observance, perspective, and outlook. And conservative Judaism is really part of what we might call progressive Judaism. In terms of these differences, I would just share one little anecdote, because again, I think it is important that in Judaism we recognize we can have multiple truths within the whole truth. And there are Orthodox Jews who, like us, are pluralists. That is to say, they believe in a plurality of approaches to the tradition as being valid. When Karen and I were in Tulsa, we were invited to the Chabad rabbi's house for lunch. It was a lovely lunch. At the end of lunch, the rabbi invited me to put on tefillin with him. And I said, I will put on tefillin with you if Rabbi Karen can join us in putting on tefillin. And of course he said, no, we can't do that. And I said, well, Rabbi, next time we eat together, rather than tefillin, let's study Torah together. That's something that bridges all Jews, is the ability to join together and study and debate. And in addition to peoplehood, I would say it's our tradition of engaging text.
So part B is from Mark is, how did you decide that Reform Judaism was right for you? And I've had an interesting journey through the denominations of Judaism, and of course there's others, right? Reconstructionist, Renewal. So I grew up in a Reform synagogue up the road in Belmont, but it was a synagogue that had merged with a conservative synagogue. So there were practices that kind of spanned the conservative movement as well. Throughout my kind of young adult years, I explored different conservative minyanim, Orthodox minyanim. Grew up at a non-denominational Jewish summer camp where I was exposed to the full range of Jewish expression. And so by the time I was thinking about becoming a rabbi, and I know Michael will laugh because part of this is because I'm by nature a little indecisive, but truly, Mark, I was not sure at that moment that I wanted to go to a Reform seminary. I really saw my identity as kind of blended in terms of expression and practice. And so I did look into JTS, the Conservative Rabbinical School, as well as RRC, the Reconstructionist program. And after much thought, I did decide on the Hebrew Union College. And I think all along Reform Judaism speaks to me first and foremost in terms of, again, full egalitarian. The idea of personal choice speaks to me. I don't believe that practice should be, forced upon you, although guidelines and expectations are important. But for me, Reform Judaism truly spoke to the blend of tradition and contemporary creativity, and I love that juxtaposition of both in Judaism, and am a proud Reform Jew.
Well, I would say that I have to go back to the community theme, and the community begins with family. My own parents just grew up with very minimal religious education, but joined a Reform temple when I was a first grader. So that community in my synagogue was like an extended family. My parents were very involved in the congregation. It was a natural place for me. So on the one hand, it was community. Secondly, in my teens, I found that the expression for social justice and for living our Torah values came through very strongly in the National Federation of Temple Youth camps and programs, and even songs for that matter. And I found that extremely touching and meaningful. And it wasn't a matter of weighing Reform against conservative or some other branch, but it certainly meshed with my own value system. That Reform had an eye and a heart and a hand for social justice. There's one other thing, and I think it ties in, Rabbi Karen, to what you were saying before about choice, and that is Reform, of course, has never meant don't do, don't commit, don't observe. It is still possible to be a mitzvah observing Jew in a Reform setting, but the difference is I do what I do out of personal conviction and commitment rather than believing that a God up on a heavenly throne is commanding me. And I feel that what I'm committed to is no less serious and no less devoted than what an Orthodox Jew is committed to.
Family. I grew up in a very strongly identified Reform Jewish home, so hard to think about it outside of it. And I think there are definitely elements of other streams of Judaism that really draw me. I feel like we could use more Hebrew within our Reform movement. I feel like that really anchors a Jew in a sense of belonging and tradition, and I think we can learn that from other movements. So in some ways it comes, I think, full circle to the beginning part of the question, that the way I want to express my Judaism is through this philosophy of reform, which is actively, hopefully when done right, reflective and open to change, and sometimes that change is even going back to tradition. If you look at the Reform Movement's platform of 1885 and compare it to the one from 1999, you see an interesting, almost full circle of 1885 leaving certain rituals and traditions where they are embraced once again in 1999. So I like that. And I guess the last thing I would say is the notion of kavanah within Reform Judaism, which is another way of expressing this notion of commitment, that it's not about the letter of the law, but it's about the spirit of the law. And I would say that if Torah is an interplay between our ability to be aware or have receptors up for the divine and feel like we understand that there are obligations upon us, we interpret those obligations in every place and age, from the time of Torah up until our day. So those laws and how we express it can change. And I think Reform Judaism is very explicit about that, and I appreciate it.
Well,
So,
amen to my fellow rabbinic panel. And
one more.
do we have any other questions?
We do.
Oh,
We do, and it's timely. It's from Will Krasnow. What is Reform Judaism's view of God's role during the pandemic or a pandemic? And in some ways, it's a question about where's God when something like a pandemic comes up? Where's God when there is suffering, which is certainly a core human question?
Well, I would defer to our rabbi with the most experience to begin.
Oh my, well, thank you for the deference. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
Will, may I say to you, first of all, that I've been honored to and invited to sing Kiddush, to lead Kiddush tonight, and you will be sitting right here on my shoulder because you set such a wonderful, beautiful standard. I am of the
You're muted.
Don't know how that happened. Okay.
and to make the world a better place. So, for example, this morning I read that the Jewish Federation, I think in New York City, gave a donation of $200,000 to India in order to produce more vaccine and more oxygen bottles and so forth. To me, that is God's working in the world through our hands. I don't believe that this plague is a punishment, although it may be a result of human misjudgment. But there's also a human vision for making things right and making things better. I also think that the fact that we are getting through this, we are improving things, and see life on the horizon is a source for us to give thanks to the source of all life for helping us to restore life.
I appreciate that answer. It resonates with me, and so I don't want to add much more. There's a midrash, a teaching that when Israel went into exile after the temple was destroyed, that the Shekhinah, that God's presence, went with Israel. So it's not just God in the good times. God is there and escorts us in all times because God is in all, creates all. That's my understanding, which I think, Dad, is similar to yours in terms of a theology. I would just add, and maybe it highlights a point that you made. Viruses are life too. God creates viruses in this world, and thankfully God gives us the ability to discover medicine and to respond, and the way that our immune systems work. But our world was created to be sustainable, and I guess I would just highlight what you said, Dad, is that in this 21st century, we as human beings are living in an increasingly unsustainable way. And when we encroach on wildlife, when we encroach on natural areas and don't live in balance, there are consequences. And I think whether it's climate change or whether we see, a human appetite perhaps for eating wild animals or doing things where it's not in balance, we have to recognize that the world is created in such a way where it will try to get itself in balance. That doesn't minimize any human suffering. That doesn't mean that an individual is at fault. But God gave a lot of power to us to make moral choices. And again, I want you to hear that doesn't mean that there aren't inexplicable things that happen in this life in which suffering exists, but our tradition also imbues us with moral responsibility, and some of that is about how do we create and maintain a sustainable world with creation God has entrusted to us.
I'll just offer two other thoughts. And, Will, I don't know that this is necessarily what Reform Judaism says, but I think we're kind of sharing our perspectives. And I will also share, this is a question that our youth at Temple Beth David have asked a lot this year, because we have been seeing the kids, and a lot of times they have been asking about coronavirus and God and why is this happening. So it's interesting to just have that question coming from all of us. I don't know, Micah. I don't know if I believe that God creates viruses. I'll have to think more about that one. I kind of tend to think more about God putting the world into motion, and good things happen, bad things happen. We make different choices. But from the beginning of time, we know from Genesis that God created people to be God's partners in trying to improve the world and continue creating. And I guess that's where I see God, kind of as Paul said, in the people who created vaccines early on in the pandemic. I have a good friend who's a professor of engineering at Smith College out in Western Mass, and she teamed up with some people in her department and made a ventilator. And I see those efforts as godly acts in our world. I don't know about the rest of you, but when I sat in the room for my first vaccine shot, I would put that up there with one of my more godly moments. It felt kind of like a miracle to me. And and I guess the second piece, as Paul said also, and Micah, that I do see God as a force of power in the universe, of strength, that when we are going through hard times, and as we've experienced every Shabbat together, that God can help strengthen our spirits and lift us up. That God is not absent in these moments, but still very present.
Of course, given that the conversation of Judaism has been going on for thousands of years, we are not going to come to all the conclusions tonight on this Shabbat. There are lots of ways to be able to do that at Temple Beth David, whether it's every Saturday morning with the lay-led minyan, where fellow congregants teach Torah, Thursday Talmud study, we've got Shavuot coming up. The key is to go and learn.
Well, thank you for those who submitted questions. And as Micah said, this does not need to be the end. You're always welcome to pick up the phone, email us any questions. We genuinely welcome questions, and we might answer with our own questions, because that's what Jews do. Please do read your weekly shofar email for upcoming opportunities to engage with one another. Next Shabbat, again, we will hopefully be outside. We will be celebrating not only Shabbat but confirmation next Friday evening. We have 9 10th graders who have just committed to study this entire year. We've already seen their written statements, and I will just say you are in for a huge treat. Amazing, thoughtful responses, very creative, filled with their questions. So we will be learning with our confirmands next Shabbat evening, as they will be helping to lead the service. B'nai Mitzvah coming up as well. And as Micah said, Erev Shavuot, May 16th, we are going to be redoing our rabbinic panel, as we've done the last few years, along with Rabbi Zub and our rabbinic intern Batya Illinois. So the topic will be revealed in this week's weekly shofar, and we'll all have a chance to respond. And I guess the last piece I'll just note is due to the Shiva for Dan Weller's father this Monday night, very important mental health program with Hadassah Margulies, who was just amazing the first time she was with us, back by popular demand. We have moved that to 2 weeks out to Monday, May 24th, so still time to sign up for the Zoom, and another opportunity again to support each other during COVID.
We are going to count the Omer on page 278 as we're moving along toward Shavuot. Do you want to all count first and then we'll offer?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. We'll offer the blessing. Again, page 278. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer hayom 41 yom shehem 5 shavuot v'shisha yamim la'omer. Today is the 41st day of the Omer, which is 5 weeks and 6 days of the Omer.
All right, and I have been reading at times from my Omer collection. It's a collection of cards. I don't know, Rabbi Citron, do you know this? Yeah, whole collection of Omer readings for each day. So for the, I think I forgot to do this last week, but for the 41st day of the Omer, here is our quote. And actually, this is true to the spirit of Reform Judaism. To be in service to something larger than ourselves is true greatness. It is the work of our lives.
And with that, we say Aleinu. It's on us to do it and to perfect the world. Page 282. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teked u'l'yotzer b'reshit, shelo asanu k'yoyei haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chalkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu k'chol amonam, v'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamachim hakadosh baruch hu v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol ha'aretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad Ushemo echad. Our thoughts now turn to loved ones who are no longer with us, those who died in recent days and those whose Yartzeiten occur this Shabbat. We're in the period of Shloshim, the first 30 days of remembrance for Herbert Borowski, father of Ann Cooperschmidt, father-in-law of Jeff Cooperschmidt, grandfather of Daniel and Rachel. It is the Yartzeiten this Shabbat of Donald Albion, Gloria Aronson, Harry Bilder, Bessie Cohen, Shirley Colagiovanni, Pauline de Aurora, Roy Foreman, Ann Pear, Louise Rock, Mark Rogers, George Solly, Saker, Anna Schlamowitz, Isaac Schlamowitz, Stephen Silk, Israel Stryer, S. Robert Watsky, and Joseph Mierovitz. And if you're remembering someone this Shabbat, I invite you to share their name out loud in your home, in your heart. You can add them to the chat. And we praise God's name with words of Kaddish on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'vyomechon u'b'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, b'agalav v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lamei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, Vitadar, vitale, vitalal, shemed kudsha brichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom imramav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
I would also just add the words for completing a book of Torah, although we didn't talk about the Torah portion tonight. We are completing the book of Leviticus with the double portion of the Har B'chukotai Shabbat. So we'll join in the words Chazak, Chazak, V'nit Chazek, be strong, and let us be strengthened, as we'll start the book of Numbers next Shabbat. We're going to conclude all together, and this will give you some time to get your wine and grape juice challah ready so that we can join in the blessings, and we'll share our Zoom screens at that point. All right, we're on page 321. Adon Olam, a good poem of affirming our belief.
Adon Olam Asher Malach V'Tempo Yitzir Nivra Ve'ein Asa V'Chesoko Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'acharei Kifrot Hakol Levado Yimloch Torah Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Omer Ve'hu Yeh V'Tifara
Shabbat Shalom. Please join us. We're going to unspotlight here. Actually, Rabbi Paul Citron, as he said, is going to lead us in Kiddush, and then we'll join and offer opportunity for those on Zoom to extend some Shabbat greetings.
I do want to thank Rabbis Micah and Karen for the honor of involving and including Susan and me in the service tonight. I wish you could see this Kiddush cup up close. It's Venetian glass, hand-painted in the ghetto of Venice, and it belonged to Micah's grandparents, my parents. So I invite you to join me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, ורצה בנו, בשבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה וראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת, מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך, באהבה וברצון, הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
לחיים.
לחיים. Shabbat Shalom.
Everyone
We have a challah.
We do have a challah.
would like to unmute. We can join together in Motzi. Iggy, stay. Not yet.
Yeah.
Blessing first.
People are left.
Blessing
All right.
first.
You can
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, ha'otzim lechem ha'aretz
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat
Shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everybody. Special welcome to Massachusetts to Paul and Susie.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom.
Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Yashakoach, rabbis. Yashakoach, rabbis.
And
Our
So I
daughter
think we saw
wants
a
to-
miracle tonight. We had 3 rabbis discussing something and no arguments.
yeah.
It's a miracle.
Let's see. It's really nice to also welcome the Pacheco Guffrey family who are joining us.
Thank you so much.
Heather and
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
welcome. And Heather, forgive me, what's your husband's name?
I'm Dave.
Hi, Dave. Very good. Nice to meet you both virtually and to welcome you. You'll see Temple Beth David is very warm and welcoming, and so hopefully you'll get to feel that in person soon.
Soon.
And may I say Shabbat Shalom to Neil and Meryl.
The Machatuna.
Shabbat Shalom. Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you. We're so
Can't
excited.
wait to be with you.
Likewise.
Yashakoach.
Thank you.
So was the sound any better tonight?
Yes.
Sounded good to us.
Sounded good to me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very good.
Huh. Well, that's good. More than a year into the pandemic, maybe we're figuring it out.
It was bound to happen.
Why rush?
We've been kind of busy, you know.
Nah.
My chat function's not working too well, so I didn't want to thank you for your thoughtful answer. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Will, and appreciate Mark Albion referencing Rabbi Harold Kushner in his response in the chat, which is good. Sally, was Jimmy behaving through the service, or do we need to call him in?
He was, but wait a minute, I have a small correction. It's his birthday, not mine.
Oh,
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday,
Happy
Jim.
birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, we couldn't see who was pointing. And
I was doing the pointing, but he has been sort of behaving tonight.
and Sandy, is the birthday boy there with you?
He had to leave a couple of minutes ago. He was here through the service, and both of us have birthdays. Mine's on the 2nd, his is on the 5th, but his was a milestone.
Yeah,
We had a wonderful time celebrating with the family outdoors last weekend. And
Good.
we're very grateful for these numbers. We can't believe the numbers are applying to us. We just could never foresee getting to this point, but it's grand. Keep the birthday coming is the way we feel.
And you know what we're getting you for your birthday?
Have no idea.
A bar mitzvah for your grandson in 2 weeks. How's that?
Isn't that marvelous?
No, I saw a T-shirt that said, "I knew I was going to get older. I just thought it would take longer."
I like
Well, I
that.
certainly know now that we can hug the kids again. Thank God. I can't believe how much taller all of our 4 grandsons
Oh, yes.
are.
And how much deeper the voices are.
Oh, down in the basement. It's hysterical.
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Speaking to you, Itanyona.
Well,
Rabbi
have a good
Sidron
week,
Senior,
everybody.
you've probably done some hugging.
Oh, we're not through. We have a few more days.
That's good. That's good, as it should be.
Indeed. That's the
It's
real
nice to
fun.
see you all together.
I want to wish all the mothers a wonderful Mother's Day.
Oh, yes, that's nice.
Oh, that's right.
Very nice. Thank you.
See you next time.
All right.
Bye.
All right, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Happy birthday, Jim.
Thanks, Will.
Yes, happy birthday, Jimmy.
Thanks, Meryl. Talk soon.
Just remember,
We'll
just
talk
remember
soon.
I'm older than you.
We'll have to celebrate.
Bye-bye.
Fine with
All
us.
right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Tim.
Shabbat Shalom.
With that, we should have our
Thank you so much.
Hi, Steve.